Well, welcome everyone, and welcome to Mary Red Nelson's Panther Nation Alumni Show. I'm Slim Overton, and we're here and we're leading up to the homecoming, and actually, it's the 160th homecoming of Virginia Union University. I wasn't there at the beginning, but I was there in the 70s, so that's a long time ago too. But we have a special guest. Let me get the kicker on that. We have a special guest with us, Joslynn Perry, and she is from the class of 1974, and they are celebrating 50 years since they graduated from this undergrad school. I say undergrad because many of them went on to further their education. But anyway, their heart and soul, I know, is right at VUU. So welcome, Jocelyn. How you doing this evening?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. I'm doing well. All is well.
Yes, well, thank you for coming. And we this is our series of talking to our alums on our brand new channel here on YouTube. And we wanted to bring you on because, like I said earlier, you're celebrating 50 years since you graduated from VUU. And I want to talk a little bit about before you got to VUU. And I see we talked the other night and you went to Cooley High, not that Cooley High, Thomas Cooley High in Michigan. And I was curious, you came from Michigan and you ended up in Virginia at Virginia Union. Talk a little bit about where did you find out about Union for one thing? Well, let's go back to this further. Uh, at Cooley High, you know, talk about your experience there at Cooley High, and I think we talked about you had a quite different experience than some people that went to Union might have had. Well, maybe some of them had a similar one, but talk a little bit about that.
Well, I went to Cooley High School in Detroit, Michigan, and it was in Northwest Detroit. I was one of six African Americans in my class. um, we didn't have, when we moved in Northwest Detroit, it was in 1965, and there were three African Americans in my middle school. However, by the time I got to high school, there were six of us. And it was a challenge because it was really the beginning of integration. In that city, that was an all Jewish neighborhood, so it was different. I was, it was a challenge with the teachers. The students, not too bad. Some of them, yes, but mainly with the teachers, it was a challenge. I was the first one who joined the choir, the band. I ran track. They didn't want us to do anything, but my mom was like, "You're gonna do something, and they're not gonna stop you." Excuse me.
Yes. Wow.
Also, when I graduated in January, graduated in January of 1970, my counselor did not want to sign any of my documents for me to go to college. So my band teacher ended up signing my documents for me to go to school. So I started school there. I did almost a year, but I really wasn't happy. Once again, I was the only Black in my classes, and my mom happened to tell my pastor, who actually went to Virginia Union. My pastor went to graduate school. He's actually from Knoxville, North Carolina. That's how I found about VUU. Had never, ever, I didn't know anything about Virginia Union University. I had been to Richmond before because our churches fellowship together, Fifth Baptist and Hopewell, but I had no idea that there was a Black university here.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
that's how I ended up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask that, because
Here.
of the environment you had when you were in high school, mostly a white environment, was it on your mind to continue that and go to a PWI or before someone introduced you to Virginia Union?
Well, well, there really were not that many HBCUs in the North. The closest one was Wilberforce, Ohio, and the young lady who used to keep us, she went to Wilberforce. But that never crossed my mind because my cousins, they went to med schools and Wayne State University, so never crossed my mind for HBCU. However, it was the best decision that was ever made for me. My
Right.
pastor and my mother got together, and it was like I said, it was the best decision that it was ever made for me to come here to Virginia Union University. I thought I was in heaven when I got here.
Well, and that happened right away. It wasn't a learning curve because you were used to what you were used to, and it's in most cases like that. It's a small learning curve getting used to. So talk about that first experience coming to campus and just looking around. Was it what you expected, or were your expectations were you disappointed, or was it what you were looking for, or you were just there and glad to be there?
I really didn't have any expectations, prior to coming. I wasn't even truly aware that it was an all black university. Because, and compared to University of Michigan, University of Detroit, Wayne State University,
Mhm.
VUU was at that time was a pretty small school, and I was shocked. Pastor Cruz told me, he says now there'll be a lot of African Americans, and I was like, oh, okay, because before we moved to Northwest Detroit, we lived in Southwest Detroit, Ecorse and River Rouge and Inkster, they were predominantly Black. But when we moved to Northwest Detroit, I was a flying buttermilk. I'll just be honest. But when I came to Union, it was um, it was a whole new experience for me. I'll just be honest.
Yeah.
First of all, I had to share a room with somebody
Yeah, that
that I
took a
didn't
little.
know.
Yeah.
So there was only one young man from Detroit. He ran track, so I didn't see him very often. Most of the people who were in my dorm, I only stayed in Whitehall 2 weeks, and then I was moved out,
Whitehall, that little box
and
of
I
a
ended up
building,
in
huh?
Newman Hall. So I was in. I only had to stay there 2 weeks, and then I ended up in Newman, and so I was with upper class. I came in as an advanced standing student, but most of the people were from Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York, New
Yeah.
Jersey,
Tidewater.
Florida, Georgia. So there was no Tidewater, absolutely, but there was no one there that I knew, not a soul. So it was a wonderful experience because I've made lifelong friends. That, and I have to say that. Um, a lot of the people that I went to Union with, we still stay in touch. And many of the choir members at Union sang in the choir at Fifth Baptist. So I still see quite a few of the musicians, and because they didn't leave. And even when I moved to New Jersey, I would always see somebody that went to Virginia Union University when I lived there for about 10 years. But it was I was because I was so quiet. It
Mm.
was a challenge in the beginning, because people thought I was just stuck up, and no, I was observer, that's that, and I'm not much different now. And so I wasn't stuck up. I was just really very shy, you know. And I was a fish out of water. You know, I'd been surrounded by my family my whole life. You know, if even if I went away to California, that was my family. If I went to Alabama, that was my family. So, and I got a tight knit family. So it was, it was a challenge for me. It really was.
Yeah,
And a lot of
you know,
people were on work study. I had no clue.
yeah, I think it helped you,
A
Jocelyn,
lot of people are,
by joining, by jumping in and, oh, I'm sorry. I think it helped you by jumping in
no,
and
go ahead.
joining the choir.
It did. I sang in Fifth Baptist Choir the whole time. I was at Union. And since they say a lot of people who were in Union's choir with Dr. Hobbs sang at Fifth Baptist. So that did help me. And like I said, I still see quite a few of those people still today, 50 years later. They're some of them are a little older than me, but I still see them. Walisa Coleman, I see Billy Evans. I see quite a few of them. Jake Holmes. So every now and then I do see them. Eartha Brown, and at that time it was Eartha Buster, and her husband Bernard Brown. I still see them, and we've remained friends over 50 years. Yeah. So
Is that Bernard from
it was a
DC?
challenge, but it was a good experience. He from Connecticut, right? Used to play
Oh,
tennis.
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Look, I want to tell people that
Yeah. He's probably
we're
gone when you left
experiencing a
because he
little
was he
delay. Want to let the people know we're experiencing a little delay. So if you see us sort of talking over each other, it's because it's sort of a late, and that's because of the connection. So we will work with this. So I will wait until you finish talking, Joshua, and give it a few minutes, and then I'll start talking because of this slight delay that we have because of the connection. But go ahead. But I do want to ask you. I do want to ask you. I was talking about you were saying about being so shy and quiet, but joining that choir was a big thing because you had to come out of your shell if you were in that choir because the choir was kind of well known throughout the country. And y'all did a lot of traveling. And I remember Dr. Hobbs used to try to pick out some of the choir members and go to their hometown if they had the opportunity. Did the choir ever go back to Detroit, to your hometown?
well belonged to Fifth Baptist Choir, and we did travel.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we we traveled. The choir did travel wherever Reverend Kelly went. We went with him. And they went, but they did come to Detroit several times. Um, so yeah, I still belong to the choir, and it's really funny. That's where I met my husband. We were
That's
in the
where you
choir
had your
together, and
union
he
at
was actually,
Union.
and he was also a student at Virginia Union, but he stayed off campus because local boy, and he belonged to Fifth Baptist. Um, so that's how I met him, and he chased me down. I'll just be honest. He can't defend himself anymore, but he did. He chased me down.
Well, would he say it was the other way around, or let me ask you about your professors. Once you got settled in and started taking classes, talk about some of the more memorable professors that you might have had, because we all had those teachers that sort of we think about even today because they influenced us in a way, probably in our careers going forward, or something
Yeah,
they might have said to us one day that sort of put a bright
I
light
think
above our
my
heads.
I think my science professor. I think my science professors and my social work professors probably were the greatest influence in helping to shape and mold my life. Dr. Tony, Dr. Bradley, they were wonderful teachers. And of course, everybody had Pearl Mackins. And she,
Yeah.
if I never knew how to research a paper, when I left Pearl Mankins' class, I knew how to do research, because in order to do her Black history back then, you had to own, she only allowed you to use primary sources. And so I remember a many day going downtown to that old state library, digging through the archives, looking for articles to write my papers. And so I did, and it really helped me in graduate school when I got to Rutgers, understanding really how to research, to do research. And then I had Dr. Letty Madison, who was at that time, in the beginning, was the over the School of Sociology and Social Work. And then Dr. Norma Good came. But I just remember how the teachers then instilled in you how to just be able to go to any setting and behave or fit in. You know, we didn't wear pants back there. You couldn't wear we couldn't wear pants to Dr. Madison's class. We couldn't wear pants to our field places. We had to get dressed up. When we came to chapel. And in fact, remember, if you didn't go to chapel, you didn't graduate.
No matter
So
what your GPA was.
Dr. Gregory at that time was the chaplain. So everybody made a beeline. I think your camera froze.
Yeah, it looked like the camera froze. We're getting
There's a eclipse tonight, so that might be a.
yeah, sometime and s- be- before, when I've had people that had issues with their connection, sometimes we had to switch to the phone. But I don't know if you want to do that, but we can continue and hope the connection stays well enough for us to
I don't
continue
know,
the
because
conversation.
let's see if I'm fine. I'm patient.
Oh,
So I think those professors were extremely influential in terms of preparing us for the world. Um, and I think Virginia Union opened a pathway for me in so many ways. And it's like I said, I was blessed in terms of my job positions because of what I learned at Virginia Union in terms of how to go on an interview, how to
mhm,
dress, writing, your writing skills. You remember we had to take a comprehensive exam before we can graduate. We had to write, you
mhm.
know. So I think Virginia Union, even though it's a small university, I think we've had some of the best professors have been there through the years, that have really taken the time to instill in us pride in what we do, and also understanding that we just can't half step when we go out into that world.
Yeah, I think you mentioned about you meeting your husband there, but even before that happened, give me one of your fondest memories that you had while you were there. Something that you think about often. And like I said, I know meeting your husband, having that union at Union probably was your fondest. But beyond that, it had to be something that, or maybe it's something that sort of sticks with you today. That you said, "Wow, what a amazing moment that was, or experience that was." Something that
I
just
think
sticks.
the best time at Union was homecoming. come to homecoming. And those were the best times. And you would remember we would have the crowning of Miss Union and Mr. Union and the band, and they would have the choirs and the tailgating. And I just think that was a great time. And then, of course, at that time, the seminary was located not far away on the other campus. And then they would have the week of convocation, and that was a good time to go and hear different people come and preach and talk about the history of Virginia Union. And I think that those probably for me were some really, really good times. I wasn't much of a partier. And they used to have dances in the Henderson Center.
Of course.
And I
But
was the worst card player in the whole wide world.
yeah, I can remember.
And so they would say, no, we don't want you. No, the worst. And I still am the worst.
I can remember it being the people that would come, that would visit. Like Nikki Giovanni came one time, and Gil Scott Heron came one time. It's the people that would visit the campus. I think I don't know, were you there? When I came there, they told me the year before that Sidney Poitier had come because he had some
I was
nieces
going to say
there.
that was when niece Portia was there when we were there, and he came because he was also on the board,
Right.
and and that was an exciting time. But they always had it, and different times they always had the best preachers, Y.T. Walker, and it's just so
Yeah.
many that came to the campus that people don't even remember because they're so young. A lot of the generation now, they didn't have the benefit of so many of the greats coming to Virginia Union. They don't have the benefit that we had, and I think that was one of the things that was really good in terms of the world coming to Virginia Union.
Yeah, I think it was amazing too to come out of Ellison Hall and walk past Dr. Ellison, who the building was named after.
Yeah, Dr. Ellison was one of my professors. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that really surprised me because I always thought that if buildings were named after you, these people were long gone. But that really surprised me to walk out of there one day and walk past, and somebody told me that's Dr. Ellison right there, who the building, and that's where the main classrooms were on the campus. And as you talk about having important people there, just having him there, and some other, Tricky Tom who had been there forever, and some of those professors, and you talked about the teachers. Some of the professors rather could have gone anywhere, could have taught anywhere, probably made a lot more money, but their dedication to that, what we call them now, HBCU, uh, was more than their personal gain. At least
Think about
that's the
Dr.
way I
Tony.
saw it.
Dr. Tony taught genetics. Dr. Bradley, the zoology. We had a man who worked on the atom bomb. I'm trying to think his name. He was a professor. Did he teach chemistry? I didn't have him though. But I'm just thinking about the people that came to Union. Like you said, they could have gone anywhere. Dr. Darrell Rollins came from New York and came to Virginia Union. He was a great Black history teacher.
Great, yeah.
So many. Yeah. I didn't have him. I had the good one. I had Dr. Pearl Mankins. I had Pearl Mankins. She was my Black history teacher.
Yeah, if you had her, you walked away with something.
Yeah, she was
Yeah,
tough, but you know what? She made it worthwhile.
yeah. So Jocelyn, you're still there in the Richmond area. Do you see any kind of changes of Virginia Union as far as the students and their attitudes and their towards the university? Is it any difference, or you still see the same enthusiasm and excitement about being a part of VUU?
I have to say that each time I've come for homecoming or just gone up to Union for an activity, I do believe that out of the many universities I've been to, people are excited about VUU. You know, the students who are there, and even in my church, we got a few young people who graduated still from Virginia Union University, and all of the ministers, except for our pastor emeritus, graduated from STVU.
Yeah,
So we have, and and I always tease them when the those who graduate from the seminary and they start rah rah rah. I said, y'all not real union students. You only go to undergraduate here, and they just laugh at me. But I do believe that when you think about how we support the school financially, many HBCUs are struggling financially, but Union is not struggling financially because the alumni really do support the school, and they come back for homecoming. There are many Union students who actually still work, for the university. We look at the football team, the basketball team. Some of them are professors. So I think that there's a real tie and a real excitement about Virginia. It's just something about an African American HBCU that it's just the ties that bind us together.
yeah. Even talking to other people that went to HBCUs, we can have that shared experience. It's still that level of competition, which is a good thing. But if you really sit down and put all of us in one room and we start talking, the experiences are similar. And each one of them probably can say the same thing we said, but it all depends on where you went. This past weekend, Norfolk State had their homecoming, and I just went to the parade, and I could see the pride mostly in the alums coming back, not taking anything from the present students. But, once you're an alum and you go back, you see things a little different, and a lot of times those college students will turn into us after they graduate and be more passionate about the school, deeper than just the sports, so. But I want to ask you another question. If you had the opportunity to talk to students today and give them a bit of advice, uh, whether they're freshmen or seniors about to graduate, what would it be?
I think that one of the things that I would always tell the students that was told to me is number one, take your education serious. While you're at Union, learn all that you can. Don't just limit it to the classroom learning, but learn everything that you can. Read. Be aware of the civics. Be aware of to be aware of something other than what you came to Union for. Yourself, for the world, and take your time and consider your field placement. That is so important. Where you have your field placement, it's really, really very important. And make your classmates and those connections last a lifetime. You just never know where you're going to go. Don't take your classmates for granted. Keep those connections, because like I said, I've lived in a couple of states, and there I go for a job, and there's a Unionite right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, understand that we're everywhere. Yeah, it's important
Yeah, it's
to have a
important.
good
And
reputation.
yeah, and we're about to have a president who from an HBCU. So that's telling you something as well.
Mhm.
I want to ask you about, do you see any the changes that, and most of the changes that I see since the 70s are positive as far as the different majors that they offer now compared to the way it was in the 70s. They had some nice majors there, but the school, I think I don't think they actually had social work there in the 70s. They even have a drama major and several other things. So how do you feel about that? Those type of changes was give students more opportunities and make the school more appealing. And I want to say this too, when you mentioned about supporting the school, I want everybody to know how the Mary Red Nelson Hampton Roads alumni chapter uh, has created two endowments, uh, two back-to-back endowments for the
Right.
university. And I put that challenge out to the other alumni association to do the same, because when you create those endowments, that's something that's going to support the university forever. Along with what we do. But getting back to the question about all the improvements that have been made since the 70s, since we came from the 70s.
I think one of the things that we're looking at now is the expansion of the programs. There are several master's programs now that Union offers. So
Yeah.
they don't just offer an undergraduate degree, but also for teachers who want to get their teaching certificate and their master's, they can come to Union now.
Mhm.
We offer, they also offer not just the master's in divinity and the doctorate in divinity over at the South at STVU at Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology. By the way, when I was at Rutgers in graduate school, he was a professor there. So, like I said, you never know the ties that we will have.
Yes.
And but I just think that, but even looking at how we're expanding the campus, we've got this what is it, $5 million project going on now
Mhm.
to build some apartments, and also that would not just benefit the university, but we're looking at how we can benefit the community surrounding the university by improving it. And even looking at how we can help in terms of looking at the historic hospital that was the only Black hospital in the city of Richmond. So I just see when I walk through the campus and see how nice, it's always been a nice campus, but I look at how the buildings, we have the new Claude Perkins building, and it's looking campus. And how we're expanding around the campus. And so I think that, as well as the students having an opportunity to continue their education at Virginia Union University, I think that's going to be great. That they don't have to go and think about applying to another graduate school, because we're adding programs on that they can do right there at Virginia Union.
Yeah, and that's amazing. That's amazing. As we think about the 160 years that we are celebrating, we're thinking about the 160 years we're celebrating for this year's homecoming. And you look back those 160 years, you think about the history of Virginia Union and where it started and what it was, and how it took two
Mhm.
different facilities to come together. And when you talk about that history, we talk about the people that put most of the HBCUs together with the Christian, and some of them were white Christians that were believed in making sure that we got an education. And
Mhm.
Virginia Union is a part of that history, that rich history.
Right.
Okay, okay, I was waiting for you
And
to.
I think when we think about it coming from, Lumpkins jail. hmm
Yeah,
I said, thinking about the fact that we started in a one-room schoolhouse, Lumpkins jail,
yeah,
at the true humble beginnings of Virginia Union University. And many people don't know the history of Virginia Union University. Most people say, when they say Richmond, the first thing they think about is VCU, but we
yeah,
existed long before long. And the thing is we're 160 years old and we're still thriving. We're still educating students. We're still providing teachers. We're providing doctors. Think about all the people that have come out of Virginia Union. The first Black governor of the United States of America, L. Douglas Wilder, and um, the people who helped to defend Brown versus Board of Education, Oliver Hill. When you just begin to really think about Senator Henry Marsh and just so many people, mayors, Dwight Jones, Leonidas Young, you just Chuck Richardson served on city council. We've produced a lot of doctors and lawyers and teachers and football players and basketball players. We've a lot of we say a lot of good out of Virginia Union University.
yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because if people, I'm glad you mentioned that if people are concerned about going to a small school, if you have it, as far as sports is concerned, the teams will find you, and if you get the correct education wherever you go in the United States or whatever job you want, you have the opportunity to prove that. And you say you went to Virginia Union, and once you prove yourself, people are being impressed about where you went. So it's always a good plus to one thing, know the history and just give us a chance. Just come there and experience this. It's one of the places, I guess we talk about this with a lot of HBCUs, that some of the campuses that are small, you have that personal relationship with the professors in most cases. Sometimes it goes beyond the classroom. You might have some issues that you might be able to talk to Dr. Pearl Mackins about,
Mhm.
beyond the classroom that you wouldn't get in a larger university where you might be just a number. So, and I know I had that experience, with some of the professors where I could go and just talk to them about something beyond the classroom, especially if you're a student coming from a long distance, then you might need something, to sort of sit down and talk about some personal issues with, and you won't get that in most
Yeah,
cases at a
I just
larger
remember when I was
university.
taking statistics, I was struggling in statistics, but Professor Brown and his wife lived right down the street from Virginia Union.
Mhm.
So she said, rather than struggle, come to the house so we can help you. So if I was struggling at another university, they wasn't going to tell me to come to their house so they could help so they could help me. But I
You're on your
went to
own.
their house and they helped me with my statistics, so I
Mhm.
could pass statistics and get out of it. Right. But I just remember thinking about Virginia Union University and the job opportunities just by going to a HBCU that I've had. I've been the first of many in jobs in terms of directors and at hospitals and serving on boards. Um, I've, I've served on the Virginia Guardianship Association. I was the only African American and the only non-lawyer. So Virginia Union University opened up a lot of doors um, for me. When I went to Rutgers, I was just a number. I was just a number in a class. I think there were 3 African Americans when I went to Rutgers Graduate School, but it was not the camaraderie that I had at Virginia Union University. Like I said, at Rutgers, I was a number. and that was about it. The chair the chair of our department room, you were just a number, and that was it. There was no caring for you. Did you pass? Did you pass your paper in? Did you understand the assignment? Whereas I just understood that at Virginia Union, if you didn't understand something, you had time to go and sit and talk with your professor, and that's unusual. But it's when you've got a couple hundred people in a classroom, professor doesn't have time to talk to you.
Yeah.
But at Union, I do believe that we had a lot of caring professors, and we still do.
Yeah, and as we wind down, I want to again congratulate you on your class's 50 years. And as you look back over the 50 years since you graduated, what what would you look for in the future for Virginia Union for the next 50 years or going beyond that?
I would pray that Virginia Union University would continue to carry on in terms of being able, first of all, survive. That's one thing, but to be able to provide continue to the programs that they have. As I stated, we're excited about the master's programs that they're adding on to Union now. I'm excited and praying that they can continue to expand housing, that we can still expand in terms of classroom space, and praying that they will continue to still recruit those students, not just the best students, but those students who need a chance. And I
Right.
just remember when I was there, there were students who needed a second chance in life, and Virginia Union University did bring them in there, and they were able to come and get an education. And so I'm praying that they will continue to reach out, not just to the best of the best, the cream of the crop, but those who need an opportunity and a second chance in life.
Wow. So again, congratulations and thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for those who are watching who were patient while we're having sort of connection issues. But I think the point that we wanted to make or the conversation we wanted to have tonight, I think you got the gist of that. And we appreciate you all watching as we continue on with this new channel, YouTube channel that we have for our alumni association, so we can spread information and have conversations like this with our alums and hopefully with some of our students. And we want to get the president up here as well to tell us about some of the great things that are happening at Virginia Union. But tonight we had Joslynn Perry, and we really appreciate her and what she's doing since she's left. It's been 50 years and she's still working hard for her alma mater. And we really appreciate that. And along with all the other alums out here that feel that you have union deep down in their heart. And we appreciate you. So thanks a lot. Any last words you want to say, Jocelyn, before you go?
First of all, thank you for allowing me to come on the show. It was a great opportunity. And I think that belonging to the Mary Red Nelson alumni chapter is like the greatest thing in the world for me, because I'm able to ensure that to work with people who love union the way I love union, and that we want union always has some kind has a funding source that they can we didn't even talk about the scholarships that we offer, that we're going to be offering for children,
Well,
young
go ahead
adults,
and talk about that.
and I just think that
Yeah,
the
go ahead and talk
alumni
about that.
association is a great example. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying if you don't, we have time, you can go ahead and mention that if you like about the scholarships that we offer.
Yeah, one of the things that the Mary Red Nelson alumni chapter, we've established scholarships for students. As we stated before, we have two endowments, but also we've been able to support the band at Virginia Union University. They needed spats, they needed gloves, they needed hats, and we were able to purchase that. The football team needed practice jerseys, so we were able to supply practice jerseys for the football team, those who lived in the Tidewater area. Also during the during COVID, we had almost what is about 80 COVID to the students.
Yeah.
So we've continued to make sure that the students have what they need. And during the earlier during the spring, we also made sure we were there to ensure that during graduation that we registered people who lived in the Tidewater area. But if you don't live in the Tidewater area, and if you're looking for a good chapter to come and work with, please come and be with us with the Mary Red Nelson Alumni Chapter in Hampton Roads.
Indeed, and I have to add, since you mentioned, it about us going there with the COVID bags, that was that really broke up a lot of those students' experience there. You know, where they, especially seniors approaching their senior year, about ready to graduate, and some of them had to go to uh, a different type of learning environment. And I think the alumni coming there, I know I remember going there with the COVID bags. I could see some of the appreciation on their face that people, that the alums came back to and cared enough to come back and sort of make it a little easier for the ones that stayed on campus, because it probably was a scary time for some of them, with that pandemic going on, and they trying to concentrate on learning and everything going on around them. So uh, I really enjoyed doing that and everything that we do. So thanks a lot, and again for coming on the show. And I want to thank all the people for watching. And this has been the Mary Red Nelson Panther Nation Alumni Show. And tomorrow, we're going to have another member from the class of 1994, who's also a member of our Alumni Association, August Bullock. So he'll be here tomorrow. So stay tuned, and you'll see the notices. And when he come, I think we're going to be on about 4:30 tomorrow. And we'll hear another version or another perspective of their experiences at Virginia Union University. I'm sure many of you have your experiences, and hopefully
Thank
we
you.
can get to some more of you. So, oh, did you say something, Jocelyn? I'm sorry. No, okay. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. And Jocelyn, I appreciate you taking out the time of your busy schedule, and really have a good time at the homecoming this weekend, and all the other people watching out there. If you're going to be there, make sure you look up your old friends, your old roommate, and give them a high five, and thank God that y'all are there in order to see each other again. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time on the Mary Red Nelson Panther Nation Alumni Show.